Welcome to episode 10 of the Mini Grave Digger Monster Truck build. If this is the first video of this series that you've seen, be sure to go back and check out the previous episodes as well. Hey guys, Mike here from Motomule, and the day has come to add shocks to this thing and make it a true roller. Have I mentioned that I've got a bit of a hoarding problem? Unfortunately, there are no four that are the same. I've got a few pairs, so hopefully I can make a couple pair of these work. After searching through my stash of shocks and realizing I didn't have anything that would work for this project, I turned to eBay. And on eBay, I found these shocks. They're a Fox 2.0 air shock that was made for the US military. The military never ended up using them, so they're sold off as surplus new parts. So far, the only things I've noticed that are different between the Fox air shocks that you would buy through a Fox retailer and these is the cool black anodizing rather than the usual clear, the fact that I got 4 shocks for the price of 1, and they don't have the Schrader valve installed to put the nitrogen in. On these ones, there's a bit of plastic stuffed in this hole here that you'd have to pick out and use a nitrogen adapter that has a hypodermic needle to go in and puncture this little self-healing rubber bit that holds the nitrogen in there. So, and I'm sure that we're going to have to adjust the pressure in these. I'm not sure what the military used these for, but I'm guessing there's got to be close to 300 psi in here. I cannot compress these things at all. So we'll get them installed and then we'll attempt adjusting the pressure. Worst case scenario, if I struggle with the hypodermic needle method, you can take this set screw out, drill this out, tap it, and put an actual Schrader valve into it. So, but I'm going to try the needle method first before I do that. All right, let's get these things installed. I've drawn up the lower shock tab, and we'll go ahead and cut that out on the homemade CNC plasma cutter. Here I've drawn up the upper shock tabs. We'll cut those out as well on the homemade CNC plas table. Alright guys, the shocks are mounted. This thing is a true roller. But as I suspected, there's way too much nitrogen in these shocks. I can't even get them to compress at all. Before we let any nitrogen out of these shocks, I wanted to address a concern that several of you left in the comments. Many of you were concerned that when this thing articulates fully, that it would bottom out or overextend this telescoping steering shaft. So right now, with too much nitrogen in these things, they're obviously fully extended. These shocks have 5 inches of travel. So I went ahead and made up a link here that's 5 inches shorter than this shock, so it would act like the shock fully compressed. So what I'm going to do is take out one shock, replace it with this link so that it'll represent fully articulated, and we'll see where this is at. And then I can do the same thing on the other side, put the shock back in here and then put this link here, and we'll see the extremes at which this axle is going to move. So with the shock fully extended on one side and the link representing the shock fully compressed on the other, you can see that the telescoping steering shaft is just fine in this orientation. I'll go ahead and switch these things around and see what it looks like going the other way. And here it is the other way. A fully extended shock on the left, the link representing a compressed shock on the right. And again, you can see plenty of spline left in this telescoping steering shaft. So for those of you that commented and were worried about this telescoping steering shaft during full articulation either way, hopefully this eases your mind. Well, if I'm completely honest, I'm a little nervous about this part of the process. I've never messed with this style of shock that has the little rubber bladder type thing that you have to poke with a hypodermic needle to add or remove nitrogen to. So this will be my first time too. All right, I've got the chassis up on blocks so that the suspension won't collapse. I don't want to puncture this, have the shock collapse, and have some of the oil come out as well. I only want to remove some of the nitrogen. So if I keep it all propped up and it doesn't compress, I should be able to get just the nitrogen out of it. So it's got this little plastic plug. I've got some picks and tweezers I'm gonna work at trying to get that little plastic bit out of there. Then I'll hook the hypodermic needle up to my no-loss chuck setup. I don't have the regulator or bottle hooked up to it because I'm only gonna remove nitrogen. I'm not gonna add any. So I think I've got the tools to do this. I'm just going to give it a shot. So here's what the little plastic plug looks like that was inside there. It appears that the shocks came with about 250 psi of nitrogen in them. I let out 100 psi, so we're down to 150 now. Let's see if I can compress it at this point. Well, it looks like with all my weight, and I'm not light, I'm about 270 pounds, bouncing up and down on there, I was only able to move it an inch. So we're gonna have to let out some more pressure. At this point, I have all 4 shocks down to 90 psi nitrogen. I'm probably gonna have to let a little more out, but at least at this point, I can get things to move. And I'm not done adding weight. You know, there's gonna be a battery, a gas tank, there'll be other things that'll add a little weight, and so maybe this will be pretty close. But I slid the O-rings up on all the shocks. I'll get up here and bounce around on it and kind of see what I can do. Well, we might be pretty darn close. With me jumping around on there and everything, I've moved them all down to where they're just an inch left of travel. So 90 PSI might be pretty close. Okay, it rolls and steers. Just gotta make it move and stop, and it'll be ready for its first test drive. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and share this video with your friends. If you want to see more, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.